Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm Ariana Dial, and my team and I are happy to be here on the 25th anniversary of this case competition in order to discuss our recommendation for the ideal online retailing experience for Painter Motors. Before we get started, let me introduce you to my team, Will Bryant and Galila Gray, who you all are going to meet shortly. Before we discuss our recommendations, let's take a moment to address the problem at hand. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the need to focus on online retail. Therefore, in this presentation, we will provide our recommendations on how to create an online retailing experience that supports customer needs, design a CRM that manages digital retailing brands, and establish a simplified delivery experience. Now let's dive into what's on the agenda for today. First, we are going to discuss the current consumer and dealer trends, then provide our recommendation for Painter Motors' online experience, CRM, and delivery experience. And finally, we're going to talk briefly about next steps. So let's get started, shall we? Looking at the demographic profile of the typical car buyer, Painter Motors' customer, Angela Walker, is a part of the largest consumer segment. Most car buyers are above the age of 55, and this is in part due to the fact that they have a greater household income and more stability in their lives compared to other consumer segments. However, it is important to note that there is another consumer segment that car dealerships should definitely keep on their radar. As millennials are becoming more financially stable and moving away from cities into the suburbs, they are on the lookout for cars. In fact, a study done by KPMG found that 80% of millennials will be looking to purchase a new car in the next 5 years. Moving right along, let's talk about trends in the car dealer industry. Over the past few decades, the number of rooftops, also known as showrooms, have declined. Nonetheless, the number of rooftops shared by the top 100 dealers have actually increased. Moreover, the larger car dealerships have seen greater sales growth over the past decade compared to small dealers such as Painter Motors. With all that being said, let's take a moment to talk about the coronavirus pandemic and its impact on the automotive industry. Since March, we have seen many factory and dealership shutdowns. In fact, the Michigan stay-at-home policy put car dealerships at a pause and closed their operations. However, in early April, a new opportunity presented itself as the governor allowed car dealerships to continue selling cars online. This shift to online sales provided not only an opportunity to continue making sales online, but also an opportunity for smaller dealers such as Painter Motors to cast a wider net of customers. Therefore, after identifying these key trends in the automotive industry, we decided to devise an online system that will not only be easy to use for customers like Angela, but also cater to a more tech-savvy consumer. All right, now since we are all updated on industry trends, Will's going to talk about the online car buying experience.
Thank you, Ariana. So as mentioned previously, when we were thinking about our digital retail solution, we wanted to factor in the change in demographics of consumers like Angela who have current purchasing power and the future consumer like millennials, who will see a raise in wages soon. We also wanted to consider the shift in how we purchase vehicles that inherently has been accelerated by COVID-19. With that being said, we started off by asking ourselves questions. What do consumers dislike or wish that they can change about the car buying experience? And a few things stood out to us, namely the paperwork process, negotiating pricing, finding a deal, and lastly, searching for inventory were all pain points for the consumer. And if you've ever purchased a vehicle, you can attest that these processes can be both time-consuming and exhausting. The second question we ask ourselves is, what are we doing well and how do we continue to do so so that consumers can experience a great customer service? Looking at that data, what is interesting is that both the test driving experience and interaction with the salespeople both included a human interactive element. So while the digital retail experience is both becoming increasingly important for business growth, and there's still opportunity for interactive aspects that we need to consider. Armed with those consumer preferences in mind, we then research what current capabilities are consumers using digitally and what capabilities are being underserved. Looking at the data, you can see that only 9% of car buyers negotiate their price online and only 5% finish their signing documents digitally. This shows that two of the top frustrations that consumer had with the car buying experience are being underserved digitally, hence where the opportunity lies. So with the marketing campaign of Car buying made easy. Our plan is to appeal to first, Angela's generation, who traditionally aren't accustomed to purchasing vehicles online, and the millennials who are accustomed to buying everything online. Looking at the revamped Painter Motors homepage, there's some key features that we wanted to highlight that we believe will increase online sales leads. First is the ease of searching for cars in our inventory, which is one click away in the bottom left hand of the screen. Second is the clear outline process of how to begin shopping for a vehicle. By clicking on the Shop Now, you can create your vehicle, calculate your payment, and begin the process of getting your vehicle. And lastly is the option to speak to an AI assistant in the bottom right hand of the screen, or easily click the phone symbol to get in contact with a Painter Motors associate. So with the introduction of a new Painter Motors website and an online streamlined process, the big question is, how do we evaluate our progress? To track our progress, there are 3 core metrics we wanted to follow. 1, are we increasing the amount of digital sales leads? The bounce rate of paintermotors.com homepage, and less obvious, but just as important, is the amount of time spent at Painter Motors during the purchasing process. Is it decreasing? This is secondary, but just as important, because if we are tackling the core concerns of our consumers, paperwork, finding cars, and negotiating prices, that should streamline the car buying process and decrease the amount of time spent at the car dealership. So while our online digital platform is extremely important in getting consumers engaged, how we handle inquiries and follow-up is just as important. I will now hand it to Galila to further discuss our digital leads and our CRM process.
Thank you, Will, and hello to everybody on the call. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. We're really excited to be here today. I'm looking forward to sharing some ideas that we have for George to make some changes to the digital lead process, but I do want to start us off by anchoring us in some industry standards when it comes to top-notch lead management. Broadly, we know that 3 phases generally bring a lead into an official customer. First, you have to capture leads and get their information into a database that's accessible by relevant sales staff. Will took us through how the revamped Painter Motors website is positioned to do just that. And according to a report conducted by Auto News last year, it takes a car dealership about 100 leads to sell 18 cars. So we can see how important it is to maintain a strong stream of leads. And then we will evaluate. You'd want to look at demographics, contact preferences, and then evaluate the quality of the lead. Is this a qualified lead that merits personalized follow-up, or is it something that could maybe be serviced with a more generic answer that is less qualified, or that the lead is less qualified? How would this person like to be contacted going forward? Questions like that. Every small touch adds up and goes a really long way. And then finally, we have engage. In this last phase, a sales team would be taking the quality leads that they identified and providing top-notch customer service, responding in a timely manner to engage the customer and increase the probability of closing that sale. All right, now let's see how that applies to George over at Painter Motors. As you know from the case, we're meeting George at a super exciting but very overwhelming time. He's been offered this new role to grow into as a result of his superb performance as an online sales consultant. But right now, George is struggling to keep up with the influx of online inquiries and maintain that level of high quality customer service that Fiat Chrysler prides itself on. Which is totally understandable because, you know, the changes that the COVID-19 pandemic have brought upon all of us have been rapid, destabilizing, especially to those of us who run small businesses. But we want to make sure that a key part of our strategy here both lightens the load for George, helps him be more efficient, and then also make sure that those customers get those quality responses in a timely manner. Right now, we know that the dealership is using a tool called VinSolutions to collect and act on leads. Not only is VinSolutions the leading software provider for auto dealerships, it's actually one of only 2 certified CRM partners that is approved by FCA Digital based on really strict criteria for security and performance. So we recommend sticking with the current provider, which is VinSolutions Customer Relationship Management System that is specifically designed for car dealerships. Key features of this platform include a mobile app, customizable sales leads reports, and call tracking. And although those features are really essential to move a lead through the phases that we outlined earlier, we can infer that some opportunities for efficiency are being missed if George's team is struggling to keep up with online leads in general. Okay, George referred to the status quo at the dealership as a broken process. And in our research and prep for this presentation today, here's where we think the process might be slowing down a bit. Right in that second phase of lead management, where you need to evaluate what a lead needs and respond accordingly. But digital retailing for car dealerships is so new and has been accelerated in the midst of this pandemic that neither the CRM nor the staff would have been set up to manage those types of leads efficiently. So a major part of George's new role is to connect internet customers with the appropriate sales team member. But if everyone on the team is spending time managing these types of customers one by one, without a clear standardized process, and even templated emails, auto responses for treating internet leads specifically, that could definitely cause a bottleneck. And then of course, consequently, you can be losing potential customers by not engaging them quickly enough. All right, so you can see on this next slide, you'll know that Vin Solutions released some really exciting features and partnerships. We'd like George to consider integrating them because it's going to save his team time and effort. So earlier this month, Vin Solutions announced a partnership with a leading AI company, Mira, which is poised to help dealerships deliver really, really top-notch customer experiences by automating customer support communications. Okay, here's how it works. It's very cool. The tool basically looks up active leads and then schedules any type of appointment that you want to schedule. It can do demos, virtual demos, using the customer, the agent, and the vehicle information. It even has a chatbot functionality to answer questions before they get to an actual team member, saving the team time. So if you'll remember from Will's slide, that mock-up of the Painter Motors website that we showed you a few slides ago, there was a chatbot functionality in the bottom right corner, and so this is compatible with that solution. With all of these new innovations, George and his team can move even more quickly to put those leads right into the follow-up pipeline and move them through the process. Also, this particular AI integration would really address some of the concerns outlined in the case, because George is going to be able to build pre-written responses and feed them into the platform so that his team is not stuck answering the same questions over and over. Okay, so now we have a quick summary of the changes that we'd like George to make. A quick cost breakdown that we sourced from a local web design firm. Estimates that it'll take about 5 weeks of both junior and senior web developers working concurrently to accomplish that level of website revamp that we're really looking for this dealership to achieve. That would come at a total cost of $26,000. Then we looked into secondary fees, project management fees, the AI integration, of course, and SEO optimization to bring more leads to that website, which would cost approximately $7,700. And then finally, in that bottom portion, you'll see that we're looking for him to mainly improve the CRM via process improvements. So we're looking for him to standardize answers to questions about pricing and test drives, and in turn reduce that response time with automation. All right, and then this is the last part of the plan that we're proposing, a slight restructuring of his sales teams so that it more clearly distinguishes between retail sales and digital sales leads, because they do have different needs and requirements. So first, we want him to provide a general staff debrief on the new updates that he's making to the CRM, as well as a more detailed training, of course, for the internet sales representatives that you see on the right-hand side of the slide, of course, because they're going to be more deeply involved in the CRM. And then with any database, of course, the senior level team leaders in any small business, dealership, anything shouldn't be super in the weeds, but they should know what's going on. So we're looking for George to provide principal, GM, all the senior leadership, sort of like a really broad high-level overview of the changes that he's making, the improvements that he expects to see, and then high-level status reports that the database can kind of churn out automatically. And then on the other side of this org chart, part of this restructuring is aimed at adapting to what the current moment demands, while also honoring what worked in the past for FCA. For instance, a standout car career salesperson with 20 years of experience and a stellar record in floor sales will be able to kind of continue working seamlessly without being expected to disrupt their workflow too much in the coming months. So with all these recommendations in place, we anticipate George doing really well in this new role and bringing the dealership to the next level, as well as helping a small business bounce back from the effects of the pandemic. So now I will hand it back to Ariana to walk us through delivery.
Thank you, Dalila. When designing the car delivery process, we wanted to create the most convenient and efficient experience as possible for the customer. So we have defined the car delivery process in 3 simple steps: schedule an appointment, deliver the vehicle, and close the deal. After picking out their new car, calculating all financing details online, and submitting their down payment, the customer will be prompted to schedule an appointment. Though a web developer could easily create this scheduling online tool, we recommend integrating an online tool called Setmore, as it can be easily added to the paintermotors.com website as a widget. Setmore's premium account is only $25 a month and allows for up to 20 staff accounts. When the delivery date has been set, one of Painter Motors' employees will deliver the car to the customer's house. We advise that Painter Motors hires a small group of employees, potentially the employees that were furloughed due to the coronavirus pandemic, that strictly focuses on delivering the vehicles to the customers. We believe separating the roles between dealer and deliverer will be the most efficient practice, as all employers will be able to optimize their time fulfilling their respective duties. In regards to costs, Painter Motors will charge the industry standard $75 for delivering cars to customers within a 30-mile radius, and an additional $1 per mile for customers who live outside this radius. This will generate more revenue for Painter Motors, as well as help support salary expenses for the new hires. On the date of delivery, the deliverer, wearing the proper PPE, of course, will arrive at the customer's home and thoroughly sanitize the vehicle. Next, the customer will have the option to test drive their new car. We really wanted to integrate this option to the car delivery process, as 67% of customers believe that test driving is an essential part of the car buying experience. Consequently, this optional test drive really is just an opportunity for the customer to walk through all of their car's new features and specs with the Painter Motors' representative. They have already put down their down payment, and this test drive is simply an opportunity to ask any last-minute questions that they have about their new car. Finally, the customer will review and sign all closing documents with their deliverer, and then take the keys to their new car. In summary, our goal as a team was to create the ideal online and delivery experience for customers like Angela, as well as for those who are more tech savvy like millennials. For ultimately, purchasing a vehicle is typically the second greatest purchase in a person's life, and we wanted to ensure that this online experience reflects the magnitude of this purchase for everyone who makes the choice to buy a vehicle on paintermotors.com. In regards to creating the CRM and the website, we estimate that it'll cost somewhere around $46,000, which is a significant expense, but we believe integrating this system will pay dividends in the future. Overall, as trends in the industry have indicated, online car buying is not going anywhere, even after this pandemic. Therefore, we believe this online business model has the potential to serve as a precedent for FCA dealerships across the US. Accordingly, it is imperative to leverage metrics such as the bounce rate that Will talked about to benchmark the success of Painter Motors' new online experience, so that this data can help guide other FCA dealerships design their own retailing experience in the future, online retailing experience in the future. Now, that concludes our presentation. Thank you for listening, and we are now open to answer any of your questions that you may have.
Okay, I'm going to start the 10-minute timer now.
Thank you. I had a question. One of the things that kind of threw me off is your slide that showed really like an equal number of traditional sales staff and internet sales staff. And I was wondering what your thought was in terms of what the current balance is at a typical dealership of internet sales personnel to floor personnel, and how you see that changing in the new, with the new paradigm.
Okay, I'll jump in here on that one. So doing some research and talking to some individuals who own dealerships. As of right now, there's still a lot of incoming foot traffic still, and this is still a progressive change into the online experience. I think as things move ahead, there will be more of a shift to an online presence, which is hence why we have the digital retail experience, and that being even more important to customize your vehicle there, to have that transition from the traditional everyone comes to the dealer floor to moving online. So I think the paradigm shift will happen, maybe not as fast as it normally, as we think it may, but it will be a shift.
Do you think the sales force will be able to go back and forth between the two different disciplines, or do you think the sales force that's focused on the online selling has a different skill set?
I can take this one. I believe that, you know, to be successful as a car dealer, you need like a core set of competencies that I wouldn't really expect to shift that much. You've got to be personal. You've got to be, you know, able to get to know people. You need to be really good at following up. I think that all of those things are true. I think that the difference comes in terms of logistics, like where is this type of follow-up, and this person, you know, personability is not a word. The friendliness sort of coming in that makes a really good salesperson. Is it happening, you know, online, you know, via email and, you know, web chat, or is it happening in person when someone comes to the dealership? So I think that it's that core set of skills that isn't really necessarily going to change, but we do expect some, you know, sales members to have a little bit more training in what digital lead management looks like, because that was such a big concern and causing a bottleneck, at least in the initial onset of the pandemic. Thank you.
I have another question. You also talked about the process being that you have the inquiry, you answer the questions, you put together the package, and then you deliver the car, and then you close the deal, which kind of threw me off a little bit. Then I thought, well, in fact, sometimes you get the test drive before you actually sign the dotted line and hand your check over, and sometimes you don't really drive the car until it's maybe you never went to the dealership until the car is delivered to you. How do you, the way you're envisioning the process, the sales process, is it flexible enough to handle both people who are going to require a test drive and maybe a car being delivered to them for a test drive before just making the purchase decision, as well as dealing with the delivery of the car because it's now been purchased? How would that work out?
Yeah, I can answer this question. So basically the test drive that we integrated into our delivery process is pretty much just an opportunity for someone to get to know the car. There's so much technology in these cars these days that like it's just an opportunity to learn more. Like for someone like Angela, who may not be up to date with the new technology and know much about, you know, her dashboard or anything. So it basically is like an educational form. And we just use the term test drive to sort of, as it is something that consumers are traditionally used to. And but in regards to your other question about requesting a test drive maybe earlier in the process, that is definitely a possibility. That's why, you know, there's so many options to reach out and call the dealer, you know, either through chat or text or whatever the customer prefers. But really just in the grand scheme of things, that this test drive that we are talking about is just an opportunity to be educated on the car before they, you know, take the keys and drive it off to wherever.
So along that same line, I like the way you all mapped out the steps, and especially the focus on taking the consumer through the features, and also the benefit of using the sales force that's familiar with the process, familiar with communicating with employees, to actually do that final step of closing the deal from a paperwork perspective. But with that process, it seems like some pieces are missing because, you know, for example, if the salesperson drops the vehicle off, how does the salesperson get back to the dealership?
Right. I can answer that one too. So I guess I didn't clarify this in the presentation, but we will have two people. They're going to be basically deliverers. Their job is going to be delivering cars to customers. So we envision it having another car, you know, traveling with the purchase vehicle, and that person will just drive with them after they, you know, finish the deal.
Okay.
What options does the customer have for returning a vehicle?
I can answer that one as well. So basically, I realized that Michigan has a cooling off policy, but that policy unfortunately does not apply to car dealerships. So in regards to the case, we tried to follow that law. So unfortunately, the customer will not be able to return their vehicle. However, it is definitely something we did consider, and if, you know, FCA was willing to bypass this law, that's definitely a possibility. But currently, as of now, Michigan cooling off policy does not apply to car dealerships.
Along those same lines, could you talk about some of the add-on services that may be available, such as warranty work and customer service at the dealership?
I'll jump in here. So part of that process will come a part of the shopping online process. Part of the build your own website is to add some of those key features on through our website process. So where we want to integrate that is when you build your car and you want to add your normal features on that go to the car, but you can also add those additional features on through the website as well. So we're envisioning through the website, when you build your own, that also includes the service package as well.
Great, thank you.
You had mentioned that even today, 67% of car buyers think that a test drive is essential to the process. What was your source for that data?
That was from Cox Automotive.
Okay, thanks.
Would you still use that same workforce of sales individuals to manage the test drives?
So basically we decided to kind of separate the roles just to kind of encourage like more of to optimize, I guess, time. So the deliverers are sort of like secondary dealers, so to speak, like they'll know everything about the dealer, the car buying process and everything. But these deliverers will be particularly just focused on fulfilling delivery orders. So they'll interact, the other dealers will primarily focus on online sales.
Any more questions? If not, that'll conclude this presentation. Thank you, Team G.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Great
job.
job. Great job, Team G.
Good job.